Okay, we are live. Welcome, one and all, to another magnificent Terran Tuesday. We have awesome conversations in the background. I just had to hush hush so we can get started. But how's everybody doing today? Black Knight, you've been on a roll, man. How you doing?
Yeah.
I think I overdid it
Oh no.
just a wee bit. Yeah, I wrote almost without interruption for 3 days, and I
Yeah.
completed two full chapters and another half of a chapter, and I finished two poems.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, for the poems, they need to be like polished.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I did for the past 3 days. And one of the chapters is already up on Substack. This
Oh,
is like
nice.
the fifth chapter of the new Shadow Fantasy series called The Winding Road,
The Winding
which
Road.
which so far I've I have been um, both amazed and amused by my own notes from
Mhm.
almost 10 years ago, which I assumed were not as extensive as they are. Uh, just like I thought that it was just like a minimal amount of
Mhm.
world building, but I have quite a lot. Like the entire pantheon, both the divine and the demonic pantheon, and
Mhm.
a bit of a mapping of the world, and a special like areas and various metals and foods, of course, because it's me. And yeah, I can't write anything without the foods and the cooking and the drinks and the wines, and of course the songs. So yeah, but I hope I hope you can read it. I know you don't have the time, but maybe
No,
Yeah,
reading
you
is
need to bring some more of your literature on here and read it to the rest of us, man.
yeah.
I could, but it will eat a lot of time.
Just bring like small portions to share with people and tell them where they can find the rest. But how are you doing, RH Snow?
Oh my
How's the
gosh.
week
It's
treat
been
you?
lifing has been getting to me. So with all the, because my husband had his heart attack and everything like that, my
Yeah.
son had well, evidently there was a problem with somebody's insurance. It wasn't mine. I had to go help family members figure out how to do their insurance, which is y'all know is like a crazy. It's just lots and lots of
A lot
fun.
of paperwork.
We got it figured out. I was so excited. So the things that we needed to get covered were covered. So I was doing that last week and then dealing with some stuff of my own. So I was like, I just got swamped with it. And it's like, so this is the longest break I've taken from writing. It's been 4 days now that I haven't written something. I'm talking about writing in my book. I did write a
Mhm.
poem. I put that on my thing. It was about people getting too many drugs or something. And I don't know, I just wrote that one for no reason. And so I've literally I had to step back from Substack, from X, from everything just to try to do these little life things. And it made me realize how really blessed I am that I have the ability to just close my door and write most of the time, because I know
Yeah.
that it's such a struggle for most people, because everybody is they're working for a living and they have their brain in gear to go to work, to go do things outside the home. And when you're getting your brain turned on to go into your world, especially if you're having to do a lot of world building, mood, all that, you have to turn your brain on and literally let it sit in idle mode for just a little bit and get set up. And so for me, I don't know why it was so hard this week for me to get out of gear from doing things like insurance and bills and paperwork and getting my brain turned back into the mode of writing. And I think that I need to realize how blessed I am in the first place, and how tough it is for a lot of other people just to find that 15 minutes to write. So many people have done such fantastic work writing in little 15-minute chunks, 20-minute chunks, where they go in and they just have just barely enough time to listen to some music and then write down a paragraph. That's all they've got. That's a major accomplishment when you've got kids and a job, or you're working, or your dog is sick and you have to go take them to the vet. Everything that's going on in your life right now, if you're a writer, I just want to tell you how much I love you and how proud I am of you to get out there and do what you're doing. And also for my readers, because readers have the same issue. When you're reading a book and you're really into it, you're rolling, and it's you've been on right on top of it. You don't want something to interrupt you because you're getting into that mix. But when you have a lot of interruptions, it can be hard to sit down and read a whole book. And so I also want to give props to our readers, because with me having to deal with everything this week, it made me just appreciate how much you guys go through and how faithful you are, not just my readers, but you guys as writers and as podcasters, to be here and to do what you do. Thank you. You're awesome.
Yes, it's always the sort of accumulation of tasks throughout the day and trying to parse out that appropriate time to get anything done, really, particularly when it falls underneath, I guess what some people could say is the hobbyist standard, because a portion of writing is hobbyist. But if you want to become that author you see yourself as in your mind, or that you hope to become one day, you really got to go beyond the hobby and try to forge it into a lifestyle, I would say. Even if it's just a piece of your everyday time. Like you said, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, 500 words a day. Doesn't always have to be a couple thousand, though it can be, but it's something that is almost a part of the writer's struggle, is not necessarily finding the time, but parsing that time out, because it is something you do when you have free time, when you're that busy. And when you're that busy, free time is restful time. And you have to ask yourself, maybe, I'm going to put my head down for a little bit. Am I really going to go at it? Am I going to get some writing done? Like Black Knight, you just went through a marathon of writing. Like, that must have taken some out of you, because, people, they don't, maybe some people don't understand the sort of mental fortitude that goes into writing, and how mentally exhausting it can be.
Oh boy. Yeah, it is. I mean, I was a bit more energized these past 3 days, today included, because I had different meal, different food, which included 3 types of meat, beans and rice, and I also got like more coffee, new coffee, ground coffee. So that also helped, but no amount of yummy food or cups of coffee will help you write a lot if you do not have the ability to squeeze the time, as you just mentioned. Like, if you have too many chores, and you have lots of other work to do apart from writing, you'll have to you'll have to make do with the bits of time that you've got. That's it. In my case, that's that's my singular focus.
Yeah. So it's a singular focus, like you're just right on it 24/7. Think about the writing, what you're going to write next. And this is something that I'm glad I brought this up, because I think it goes directly into today's topic, which is dialogue. And I want to know, how much do you focus on your dialogue? Because I've read some of your work. You got some very, very, very fun dialogue going on in there.
Well, the dialogue, certainly when I was starting back in the day, was probably I was horrible at writing it. I could write it in other languages, but not English. And And you could imagine that when you translate dialogue from a different culture, when you
Yeah.
attempt to translate it and you are not able to properly translate it, it turns into a slog to write and read.
What kind of
Especially,
issues did you run into that maybe you didn't foresee?
well, apart from translating it, that would be specific terms and things that are culturally specific,
Mm,
which could not be easily translated, and then I had to relearn everything pretty much from the ground up.
really?
So that yeah.
What do you mean
I
by
think,
relearn? Like, can you give an example?
well, if you want to let's say translate a saying
Mhm.
which does not easily you cannot translate the cultural references of that saying so that the reader can understand it. In many ways, you pretty much you have to reinvent the saying
Really
for the different cultural setting that you are. It's like most of your reader base is from.
interesting. Was there any culture shock in specific?
Well, mm, pretty much the my current rule of thumb is that Eastern folk wisdom is nigh untranslatable for Western audiences.
Really? Why is that actually?
Maybe for the older Western audiences, it's easier for them to kind of explore different concepts in their minds because they had different education,
Hmm.
um, and they have the ability to critically think. While the newer generations, they have been robbed of a more like deeper education, more layered education. I'm not saying that some of them don't have it, but like we're talking in it's like broader terms here.
Hmm.
And let's say there is that example that you could see. It's there is and try to let's let's say imagine it from your cultural point of view, which is one of our older sayings, which basically like loosely translates that um, about head uh, is not chopped off by the sword. How would you imagine this saying should translate?
What was the saying again? Can you say it again?
About head is not chopped off by the sword.
About head. Honestly, I'm not sure. It is a bit lost in translation there for me.
You see, you see, this is just one of the things, and
What
I'm
did you translate that to? What did you translate it to?
well, the original intent of this saying is that it emerged during the beginning of the Ottoman enslavement of the Balkans,
Uh huh.
and it's pretty much a saying that instills the so-called value of fake submission to the invader.
Hmm. Okay, interesting.
That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah, so some false submission there. Pretend you're submitting. Okay, that yeah, I can see. Even after you told me, it doesn't necessarily compute there.
Yep,
Oh,
and
okay.
the thing is that I was really bad at writing a dialogue in English, really bad, and it cost me a lot. Like to actually begin to write good dialogue, it took me like a few years.
Yeah.
Even before I began work on the like translating the drafts for my intro book. It's like a few
So,
years.
so it's idioms, a lot of idiom issues there.
Yeah, probably. And then there is the issue with the different language forms. It's like the way that you address the people, both like the characters who are involved in the conversation. As you know, like the languages are different, and there is a different difference in the way that you address people. In certain cultures, you have to like use specific tone, a polite tone, to address certain figures. Let's say figures of with seniority, or characters who have like especially valued skill for the community, or they have like special position. And let's say in some areas here of the Balkans, you cannot you do not say the name of the person that you are addressing before. Like you can't put it in the beginning of the sentence. You can't say, let's say, James, I want you to tell Snow that, let's say, there is a storm looming over the horizon. No. You have to say the name at the end of the sentence, of the like line of dialogue. But that's not like, it's very different.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like it. And that's something I think a lot of authors definitely don't worry about too much. I'd say is the translation stuff. Yours is very particular and unique because you know 3 languages, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that comes with a lot of different stuff like that. Like, do you just write in English, or do you translate from your native tongue to English?
I like these days. I may have leveled up a little bit, so in most of the time I just write in English. But there are moments where I cannot just write in English, and I have to translate something from let's say either Bulgarian to English or Russian to English.
Yeah, you just can't find the words, or
you can't. I can't. Just my brain like locks, and I have to like pull stuff from my first and my second language.
I get that. I do something very similar when I'm trying to find sort of an appropriate definition. And it's not coming to mind, so like screw it. I'll just write out the entire thing and come back and fill that in later. Yeah.
That's
just keep the crazy train rolling.
That's exactly the thing.
That's second draft James problem. I'm first draft James. We're not going to worry about that. Now, speaking about idioms and dialects, I want to go over to Snow because yours is very particular. Like yours is almost like this post-apocalyptic Western, and I'm wondering, did you have to invent like a lot of new idioms and really just dig into existing dialects and transform them into new ones, or did you just kind of lean on existing dialects and just use those?
Because it's not that far in the future, so I don't have to worry about having to reinvent the wheel. And because I've lived all over Texas, the only place I haven't really lived is in far west Texas. So I have
Uh-huh.
to really immerse myself in that dialect. But when I'm writing anything like that, and what Black Knight's saying, the struggle is real when you get stuck in a particular language in your head, a particular place. For instance, I can write poetry in Espanol. I can actually speak a little bit of it, but I'm much better at listening to it or writing in it. And I start writing that way, I can't break out. It's really hard for me. I have to go back and I have to read English and speak English. And the same thing happens with dialect. And so
Yeah.
when writing and I don't usually write phonetically. There's a couple of characters that I do that they drop their G's, or they drop their, the like bring in instead of bringing or something like that. The instead of the. I'll occasionally do that to kind of give a flavor of it, but it's more about the cadence and the rhythm of it. And different dialects have different rhythms. There's a way that they flow. And so for me, I was able to dig into what I already knew about Texas, take it at an unspecified number of years, because I actually know how many years it is in the future. It's not that
Yeah.
far. As far as in terms of ages, it's not like 1,000 years. And so I was able to use those existing dialects, and then I wanted to take it, fast forward it, because Spanglish is a thing in Texas. And there's actually debate about this with some people about, people don't really speak mixed, language. They'll either speak only English or they'll speak only Spanish. That is not true, at least not here in
Yeah.
Texas. We have a lot of people will be speaking to you in Espanol, or speaking to you in English, and then they'll go, "Oh, hija, you don't need to do that," or "mija," if it's somebody really
We
familiar.
do the same thing down here.
Thank you, because I've heard people say, "Oh, they don't really mix." Yes, we do. We will
Yeah.
absolutely throw a Spanglish word in there, and I have a lot of people that know bits and pieces of Spanish, bits and pieces of English, and together it makes Spanglish. So I took Spanglish to make it into an official language, which one of my characters is very proud that she actually is fluent in Spanglish as well as Spanish and English.
Yeah.
She is very, had those 3 languages for that, and she was used as an ambassador at the border for the border ports. And so we have a sort of a different in Watcher the Damned, and we learn more about this as you go further into the story, as you get into Purgatory, which is the town that they go to assemble their sort of meet at an inn in Purgatory. And when they get there, they actually have all these characters from so many different parts of Texas. And so that mix of languages and characters, we took Spanglish a little further. We actually have an alliance between the nation of Texas, which had broken away and had created its own republic before the apocalypse, and they had a closer relationship with the Aztlan Empire. And so we actually have them where now you have Mexico is free of the cartels, and it formed this relationship with Texas, which had broken free of the United States from the whole Earth Union. And so that, because the United States actually aligns itself with Europe at that point. And I have this whole huge backstory that I've written for it. And so in the apocalyptic section, now we have these languages where you have the Spanglish is a little stronger. You have more dialect from south. The valley itself is a very different cadence. This is the valley. If you hear people talking in the valley, the Rio Grande Valley, it is they're proud Tejanos. They've been here for 500 years or more. And they consider themselves to be Tejanos. They're Texans. They've lived there all this time. They've been here longer than most Anglo settlers have been. And so they're very proud of their Texas heritage, and they embrace it all, but they have a very different cadence in the way they talk. And so I have a couple of my characters that actually, Dominic Santos, who actually is the child of a Caribbean visiting professor, and his mother, who is from the Valley. And then I have another character also, and she is also from actually the Rio Grande Valley itself, down on the Rio Grande. And so their language is different enough. When I'm hearing them speak, it's so real to me. I have to break free of being in their head when I write their dialogue, and it becomes like a language, and it's breaking loose of that dialect to go to my next character relies on me being so immersed in the scene that I can hear each character talking, because my characters that are from the Rio Grande Valley frequently mix with my Houstonian character, which is a completely different accent. It's very metro. It's from all over the world, and so you have a more of a Midwestern sort of no accent for because he's my big big wheel, and he has more of a, he's been back and forth to New York, so he still has a Texas feel, but he has once again a different cadence because he's bringing in New York, which I've been very blessed that I've had some incredible New Yorkers in my life that I've known, and getting to play with that mix of dialects from a world that's just far enough in the future that you start to see that them merge has been a lot of fun. And I think that the hardest thing for me to do was to come up with words that I thought would actually be created. Slang that's used in Watcher the Damned, almost all of the words are just combination words that have been reconfigured.
Mhm.
How we would normally say something like, you have your fuzzy slippers, and if you have a pair of socks that you wear like slippers, you call them slipper socks. That's what we do. We typically, not just in Texas, but all over the United States, we just make up new combo words all the time. So I actually went ahead and used that same language development to create new combo words that are indicated by the capitalization. So, for instance, the wildlands is actually is wild land, so it's just a combo word, wildlands, with two,
Mhm.
and it drives editors just nuts because it's not enough to stand out as, oh, it's a name. They think I've just not capitalized it properly. And I'm like, this is how we talk. And so this is to notice that it's an actual name of a place. And because you've gone through the apocalyptic setting of Texas, well, after the happening, almost 50
Mhm.
passes between the happening and the post-apocalyptic world that we enter with the Watcher. And so they've created their own words, and they're just amalgamations, but they're real place names. And so working with my editors demands that I actually make a glossary that it says this is supposed to be done, so that way we don't have to worry about them accidentally going in and uncapitalizing everything. And I've been really blessed that my editors are really sweet about it, and that's the reason I don't use spell check, because it drives me nuts and I hate having to enter everything. And so I just said forget it, and I just turned it off.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the issues when sort of dealing with I guess what you call it, advanced language there. And it's true. Like Spanglish is real. It's its own dialect. There are certain words that sound like they're Spanish, but they're not really words. You go to Mexico or anywhere in the Latin world, try to use them. They don't mean anything to them because it's not a
Or
real
maybe,
word.
Okay, so tell
or maybe they'll beat you up if you use them.
what are
Two
some
words that come to mind off the back: troco, which would mean over here truck. That's not how you say truck in Spanish.
truck?
Troco, like it's a truck with an O at the end. Truco, not
Oh,
not a real word, but they'll say it over here, and people just kind of pick it up. Like, yeah, we know what you mean, and it just sort of becomes part of the dialect. And another one you may not have heard of, chingadera. You heard of this one? A snow
No,
chingadera.
Chigadera. What is it?
Chingadera, it means nothing. Chingadera is the word you use when you can't remember the word. You're trying to point out something to someone, like, that chingadera over there, the thing underneath the tree.
What's Chigadera?
It's just like it's like a placeholder. It sounds like it makes sense,
Well,
but
but it doesn't. It's
it doesn't
nothing.
mean anything. No, it's only used here in the West. It's
Oh, boy.
primarily used here in the West.
Yeah, that reminds me. That reminds me. I think I saw somewhere like there was a sign, and like the picture said that it was like from somewhere on the border, like in Texas, and it's like it's. I have no idea if this was just like a joke sign or something, but from all that you're telling me right now, it could very well be real, and it says "Entrero somewhere else."
Entrero?
Somewhere else.
Yeah, yes. No, that's exactly. I was just going to say, well, a lot of times we'll say something like "no problemo." It's like
Yeah.
we have a tendency to put an O on everything. There's a lot of words that are common down rodeo. Now it's all over but anything that has to do with, geez, I'm trying to think of something, because I went to the Midwest and I actually was speaking, and I was just talking to I was in a Mexican restaurant. I was just talking to the waitress, and it was just dialect from Texas, but she understood it. But then my brother turned to me, he goes, and he hasn't known me. He was adopted out when he was very young. My father had him. And I found him later, and he was like, what? I didn't know you knew Spanish. I'm like, I didn't know I did either, because I was just talking like I was from Texas. So there's a lot of words that just, if you don't know that other people don't know them, you think it's just part of the language, and it turns out it's not. Naranja, rojo, color names, Amarillo. Don't say
Yeah,
it properly, say it with the L, so it's Amarillo instead. And we have a tendency to incorporate that, or mess them up entirely. Mexia, is a town close to where I live, and it's spelled Mexia. But so it's actually named after General Antonio Mexia, who is a famous general from the Texas Revolution. And I've always said Texas Revolution is the Mexican Revolution that succeeded at the time. We actually had several people who were Tejano that came in and they fought on the side of the Texans. And in the early days of Texas were considered heroes. And so Mexia is there. Well, it just tears people up from other parts of the state, because that's how you know when somebody's not from here. They'll say Mexia, or they'll try to get it right. And that's a trap. We just lay it out so that way we know who's from here and who's not. The same thing with other words in the language, the Blanco River, and all of the river names are almost all in Espanol. And so when you're talking to somebody and they don't know what you're saying, and you realize, oh, I'm speaking a different language. I thought I was speaking English. I didn't know something that much different about it. And so those little words that speak in, speaking of abuelas and mija, mija is another word that gets used a lot. And it's mi hija, which is my daughter. But do y'all do that contraction out west, James? Or
Mija?
Mija, yeah. Yeah.
Mija.
Mija, mijo. And for a lot of people, like mijo, well, what's a mijo? And no, it's a mi hijo. And mijo. So you just sort of slide it all together. And so if somebody's trying to translate, they get it kind of different. But I think that's just commonality of Espanol, isn't it?
Yeah, mija, mijo, like pretty much. It's a very gendered language.
Yes. And so when you slide it in, instead of the mi hija or mi hijo, that's another way that you can sort of differentiate somebody who's speaking more formal language, that tú versus ustedes, things like that. And people will just slide in different phrases that they have heard, and you get to where you're used to it. So you kind of sort of know, de nada, everybody's de nada, And so, and that's one's more commonly known. And one of the issues that we're coming up with, and maybe y'all have a take on this, they're now saying, well, we shouldn't other languages by putting them in italics. For instance, if I use the word mija or use a phrase in Spanish, that I shouldn't put it in italics when I'm writing English in the same thing. And I'm like, you know what? I put it in italics because I'm invoking a particular language as opposed to just speaking the dialect that I know. Mm-hmm. And that's so people can say, okay, I might not expect you to know this word, to go look it up, or maybe it's in the glossary or something like that.
That just sounds like more of that oversensitivity policing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the reasoning? What's the reasoning behind this?
Yeah,
it's lazy. It's intellectual laziness.
Well, the reason we actually do that, italics, is so the reader will know, oh, this is a different language. Go look it up in the,
Exactly.
And I actually am really blessed because I have so many characters. A lot of times one of them will say, well, I don't know your fancy, Spanish or whatever. And one of the other characters will tell them, they'll translate for them. And so I'm lucky that I have that going for me, because I don't have just one character talking. So I've got several, and I'm able to just more or less translate in the story itself. Once I get past a certain point where one character is using those phrases regularly, I usually don't italicize it. When I'm introducing a character, because Colombianos, Colombian, when they have their language, especially from Bogota, it's a very different sound. And they have their, kind of like you were talking about with West Coast Espanol, you have a different, not language, but you have different slang in Bogota. Mm-hmm. And my dad worked down there for a while. He actually worked in South America and Mexico for a long time. And so when we have those languages and those little things that people know, usually I'll italicize those, because I have a man from Bogota in our story in the later books, and he becomes a major character because he's very important to the plot. And as he's speaking, the first time we meet him, he does have little phrases that would be italicized. Mm-hmm. they're they're in his dialect of Bogota Espanol, and we mention his accent frequently, but it's very hard because you can't for a character who is speaking English, so he can talk to other, and he's obviously a well-educated man. He knows several languages, and he's speaking English. He still throws in some of his statements because he's talking to another character who knows some Spanish, and so he'll throw it out there, and they know each other. But there's getting the cadence right between the Rio Grande Valley versus South America and the Spanish that's spoken there, especially with I believe, and if I'm correct, my father had to learn how to speak that Castilian Spanish when he was overseas in Spain, and when he went to Bogota, he actually said that in Venezuela and Bogota they had that more of the terrathota,
Mhm.
that sound of Spanish as opposed to the Mexican hard S or hard T. And so I was kind of intrigued by that, and trying to incorporate it without doing it phonetically is really hard. So I just sort of have to allude to it and have a different cadence for each one of them.
Yeah, we got a question here for you, Lady Snow, from Moral Officer Coran. Does Lady Snow, I have to ask you, did you hear about the 2 Texas men that wanted to take over the island by Haiti? I know Texans think big, but oh my.
What? Tell me about this girl. By the way, I said I love you, Gran. I miss you. Come on there. Howdy, y'all. I love you.
So what I heard was that these 2 guys, they were on the lookout for a mercenary army, and they wanted to take these 2 men. They wanted to use that mercenary army to take over that island and make it into their own private island.
Wow, that's just nuts.
Ambitious,
but a little nuts. Because you can't just say you're gonna just go somewhere and go. And they're 21 and 20. Are y'all crazy? Just what is wrong with y'all guys? Come on.
I don't know. But by the way, if you look to the private chat, I posted a snippet of conversation. This is the line of the private chat of the StreamYard.
Okay, did you want to read this out loud?
Yes.
No, I want Snow to read it.
Oh, okay. Hang on, where have you got it? Is it in the chat?
Yeah, the private chat of StreamYard.
Okay. That accidentally go. Can you see? Okay, so I'm going to try to read this. Which okay, let me try this. I'm reading through it right now, so I'm gonna.
This is in high biker speak. This is level 3 biker speak. Yeah.
A biker, like biker dude.
The level 3 biker speak.
Okay. Let's see if I can do biker. See, this is me, friend. What I mean to say was he is a sec and he is Isaac.
Yes.
What is that? Isaac?
Isaac.
Oh, Isaac, excuse me. He is Isaac and a big boss. Me, Mathorna is not respecting these here parts, but the fringe, it's another matter altogether.
Ooh, yeah.
And see, the worst part is because I'm a chick, because I'm a girl, it's really hard. When people if you hear women trying to do men's voices, some people get really thrown by that because if my voice is too high, it takes away if I had more bass in it, I could try it like that. Let me see if I try it like that. See here, this is me, friend. What I mean to say is, he was Isaac and a big boss. Me, my authority is not respecting these here parts. But see, the fringe, it's another matter altogether. I have to channel my inner Hulk Hogan to do it. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little about this biker speak?
Yeah, really.
I think I mentioned it before. I developed it out of almost intentionally broken English. I broke it a couple of times, like a couple of different ways. I broke it in a different way, and then I reassembled it, and yeah, just it was a similar process with what you mentioned about the like the post-apocalyptic speak, that like, and then the different words that they had to use, like new words and the jumbled stuff. But in this case, you have alien jargon inserted because these are space bikers and they have to talk to other aliens. And of course, we have to imagine some way that they would like interact, like the languages would interact, and consider that they are using a broken, like synthetically broken language on purpose. So they have to speak certain words and have this outward look to their speech, which is almost like overly intentionally. Well, the aliens don't know that, but the bikers, they do it intentionally. They have 5 levels of this. With the last level, which level 5, which is the high biker speak, which only other bikers would understand. It's so packed with biker like jargon and the specific words that, just like you mentioned, Snow, like you will go to another like place where there is another biker club, Space Biker Club, SMC, and you will use some of the lingo of your club, and they might not even understand you. But with this biker speak, they have special conventions every year, so they how should I say, they modernize, they update the biker speak, like the different levels of biker speak, and they exchange words. And it's one of the more funny aspects of it, because they're all in on it, but the aliens are not. And it's like, to the aliens are these like human bikers and Terran bikers and other allied alien races who are rarely admitted into the bikers, space bikers. They are considered to be like like a big crime syndicate, and they assume, because that's how they act, that's what they do, and then this is how they speak, and it's assumed, especially by other criminal syndicates, that that's what they are. But they are something else. I mean, they're stealing stuff and they're killing people, but they also just like the pirates back in the day in the Caribbean, they would liberate slaves from the slave ships, and they would have them join them. So this is one of the aspects of the space bikers. But the bikers speak, like the lowest level is almost like unbroken English. It's like very few broken words. And nice. The sentences are like mostly okay. And when a biker is not speaking in biker speak to you, you're either going to die, or you are a very, very close friend, or you are someone who is like some innocent rando who they're like, oh yeah, this is some grandma who's living across the street, like on that planet, and she's innocent, she doesn't know anything. Well, we just like we have to tell her, grandma, just stay home, like for the next hour. Just don't go out on the street. Yes, we'll buy you like alien cow milk. Don't worry. We'll buy you alien eggs. Just stay home. We need to do stuff like on the street. It's not safe. Like this is when they will not use biker speak.
Oh wow.
And it began with my desire to make them like a unique mix of old school gangsters and like the Hollywood pirate talk, which is invented. The pirates did not speak like that, but yar matey and stuff, like that specific the specific way in
Their dialect.
yeah. That's how they speak in the Hollywood movies, the pirate movies.
Yeah, really.
This is not how the pirates speak. That wasn't like they talk like the normal people. They didn't have this weird dialect. Just no. It was invented for the movies. But in my case, I think it took me 2.5 years to, and I still mix in some, like in some rare cases, I mix the different levels, because especially if I'm writing like a dialogue which is set in very intense moment, because I'm trying to be consistent, and especially these people who become space bikers, they are very passionate. In many cases, they lack they lack filter, and they pretty much say what's on their mind. They don't care. They don't give a flying fart. As a matter of fact, this is like one of the favorite words, new words, which I made up for Mac, my space biker character, is fart face.
What?
Yes, fart face. This is one of his childhood insults, and that stems from aliens. There is that species, the Tazaran species, and they partook in that invasion. They were part of this the pirate armada, many of them, and their physiology is such that their blood stinks, and it's like not when they begin to decompose. It just stinks. To them it doesn't, but to other species it does stink.
Oh my goodness.
And when they bleed, of course, it was like massive battle, constant battles. There were a lot of dead Tazarans, and this is what the kids in around this area where he lived, when they saw a dead Tazaran, they would say "fart face." They didn't even know the name of the species of the alien race. That's a word that the orphans, the kids invented, and it became part of the language.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, because they don't know the same words that the other ones do. And this is one of the things that we have to be aware of, is that if everybody knows the same language and they all know the same idioms and they all understand it, if they use the same words, if it's got a common root and the history goes back that far, then that makes sense. But what happens when you have something that took place after a point like where the cultures fork off, and you have that one character talking about something, and another character shouldn't know what they're calling it if they haven't already been intermingling with that culture. Um, and the biggest one I had with this was chupacabras. I have chupacabras in the story. They're a created race, and that's a spoiler on how they were created and who made them. But the survivors in the story, and that means the Watcher and the others like him, the mutated cowboys that basically rule the roost in the Tejas Co-op, they call them chupacabras because that was the closest thing they could think of to what it looked like. But Rose, who is from a different culture, and they were split off before the chupacabras were created. And so she's been living in an insular culture where they haven't been talking to the survivors. They don't really know anything about them. They think that survivors are just basically trained apes, that they're stupid, animals that are out there that are dressed like people, but they don't really know anything, and they don't have any technology, and they don't know what to do. So she hasn't been intermingling with them. They don't have a cross-cultural exchange, so that they know basic English together. A lot of the words aren't shared. And so one of those words is chupacabra. So she had to call it something else because she wouldn't know that that's what survivors call these creatures. And she calls them wolf bears because she thinks they're wolf bears. They look like a wolf and a bear, and they don't see them that often. And so they were just like, oh, it's a wolf bear. It's a combo word. And I had to make sure that I didn't go in when I'm writing dialogue that I don't actually have her call them a chupacabra until she's told that's what survivors call them. Because otherwise she's not going to know that. And I have to remember that keeping those spheres separate means that there are words that won't be shared unless those cultures come together. So kind of like your bikers, there's a place in every story where you'll have people who are sharing an insular culture, and they will have familial words that may not be known by other people. And you're going to kind of want to make sure that mix, that's what takes away some of that believability when everybody knows all the languages and everybody's it all the time. It actually takes away some believability, especially if you are in a world where they don't have a universal translator or they don't have a common universal language root.
Yeah, that's
even if they do have the common universal language, like
oh yeah, you're
Star Trek.
Universal.
I also have it. Like
intergalactic.
there is the different areas, but for example, they have something called the Galactic Common, which it's like a lingua franca, like Esperanto or something. But even it, because the vast distances, and sometimes like there are different areas in the galaxy which they are isolated, a bit more isolated than others, and they do not update their language files. That they have, like they're still using older words, or they're inventing new words, and they're like changing the grammar a little bit. You can still understand them, but it's like, imagine someone who is living on the other side of the galactic core and travels to a different part of towards the edge of the galactic core, to some area where they've been, let's say, isolated by some anomaly or something, and no one can hyperspace there or warp gate there. Like, for example, let's say 100 years, just 100 years, just 100 years, not even 100 years, let's say 50 years, they will have some issues understanding each other. And then you have like these like different dialects, like you mentioned, like the Spanish dialects in Spain, in Bogota, in Mexico, and I'm sure that like throughout the Latin America you have various dialects that they have, like if they try to, let's say, gather all of them back to Spain, and they will have issues. I'm sure they will.
Well, it's a lot like when we talk about speaking with people from the past. We imagine that people, if 100 years ago, 150 years ago, that we could speak to them perfectly as we speak now. And we probably could. They would understand us, and we can understand them. But when we go back further, when we start to go back in the 400, 500 years, we're looking at an entirely different language in some respects. Some of the core is understandable, but especially as we get back into English, English is very different. French, you probably, High French, Low German, things like that, there's a common core. And if you read those, you can actually sort of tell how they're alike. But English is so incredibly different from what it was, and it mutates so quickly that us speaking English to somebody 500 years ago, we probably wouldn't be understood. And the same thing actually happens when people travel forward in time in literature. We sort of have to take that into account, that if they don't have a translator, they might not even understand what they're saying.
Yeah, dialect is very important when you're dealing with stories on a grander scale, multiple people talking to each other, not only in different languages, but where they're from, particularly here in the US. It's a very, very large place. People have different dialects depending on where you're going. One question I wanted to ask before we head out, we got about another half hour to go. We can dig into this. What was your journey like discovering, practicing, and mastering show, don't tell in the use of dialogue?
Who wants to go first here?
Let's start off with you, Snow. We start off with Black Panther. Last, we'll start with you.
I have when we have dialogue, that is a chance to actually show and tell, but the people are talking about something. They're actually talking about things. They are telling. They are telling how they feel, or they're telling how they look. And show don't tell is difficult for me because I love to go through the narrative voice and talk about this person felt this way or they did these things. But it depends on which narrator I have. I have several different narrators in the story. I have ones where I'm actually looking through a particular character's eyes, and have another one where I've got actually a narrator who actually tells the story from start to finish. And that person, because it's a huge spoiler and it's not revealed in the story, the person who is telling the story is telling it from a point in the future, remembering what they were told about this journey and the way that people felt and what they were thinking at the time. And so this is known to the person who is in the future. And it's something that's been, a lot of people have never had a problem with it, but there was one particular reader who was really struggling with it. He said, well, you're switching, you talk as if this is a person who knows this. No, there's a person actually telling the story. It's not an omniscient narrator. It's actually a narrator from in the future who is telling the story. And because it's a spoiler, we can't tell it. If you read the whole story, you'll actually know, and suddenly it gets very clear. But so when we're using narrative stories, when we're talking, much like when Tolkien goes through the woods, he's not speaking through Frodo's eyes usually. Yeah. There's a point where he actually steps back and the narrator is telling the story. And you have to tell then. But then when you have dialogue, the characters, first of all, they have to be speaking to each other about something, and they're able to see each other. They're able to see what the other person is doing. And the he said, she said thing, of course, that's part of telling. He said this thing, she said that thing. Taking that, first of all, the dialogue tags and turning them into actions has been the number one transformative point for me in writing dialogue. And I moved away from saying he said this thing. Occasionally I'll say something like, well, he despondent, Von Helm threw down his hat. And then he'll say, gosh darn it, I wish I'd never met her. That's him. There's an action that goes with it. We talk about what they're doing when they're talking. But the truth is, we don't move constantly when we're talking to each other. One of the most difficult things is when you have an intimate conversation with somebody where you're just sitting next to them and talking, using your hands maybe, but you're not really, you're looking down or you're looking up. It's very difficult to get that dialogue action tag that where Rose looked at her hands, wondering if he noticed she was afraid. I say to you, Deva, I have no idea what you're asking me to do. When we're setting up that scene, there's only so many times you can say she's looking at her hands. You have to come up with different ways to discuss what that and you might say how they look like they're feeling at the time, how they're show don't tell gets really hard. Taking it into dialogue action means that we can't just have the characters just sitting and staring at the floor and talking. Then they actually have to, unless that's what they're doing, they have to have something to do. And so that's what cups of coffee are for.
Huh.
That's what somebody smoking a cigar is for. That's what somebody playing with their hat. They fiddle with their hats a lot. Everybody has to wear a hat and watch where they're down because they're bald. They're bald as eggs. If you're in Texas and you're not wearing a hat, you're gonna fry. We're one of the furthest south states in the U.S. and we get direct rays of sun. And then when you're it's raining, you're cold. There's no happy medium in Texas. There's like 3 days where it's actually nice. And so they're always wearing hats. So we're able to do a lot of stuff with hats. We do a lot of he tipped his hat back to look her in the eyes, or he took off his hat and fiddled with the brim, turning it like a wheel. There's all kinds of things we can do with hats. There's things that we can do with our knives. We have a lot of I don't know. Okay, is this just Texas or is it everywhere?
No, it's not just Texas.
When dudes are sitting around talking, they will literally pull their knife out of their pocket. They'll open it up and they will either sort of fiddle with, or they'll clean their nails. They're actually sort of like a veiled threat. They'll sit there and they'll sort of like fiddle with their nails or something, whittle a piece of wood or whatever, but the knife's out.
I've seen more of the insecure guys do that. The whole look at me, I got a knife kind. But usually, you got that one guy. Yeah, before we continue, got a little question here. Which one of you knows what cattywampus means?
Me. Know it.
Well, tell us what that is. I don't know if that sounds familiar.
Hey, that Black Knight, you know what cattywampus is?
No.
Cattywampus is kind of like kitty corner, but it's not. Cattywampus is when your stuff is skewed like a quarter turn to a particular direction. It's skewed. It's in a particular direction. It is cattywampus. And there's the only way I would have to show you what cattywampus actually looks like. If you grabbed me up and shook me by my collar, just shook me, and then threw it down, my shirt would be cattywampus because the collar would be up over my shoulder or something like that. I actually use cattywampus in Watcher of the Damned. It is in Watcher of the Damned along with a lot of other words like fiddlesticks and discombobulated, lots of lovely words like that. And so cattywampus is one of my favorite words, and I try to use it at least once in every book if I can, because they frequently get cattywampus. Things will get cattywampus. It's not just people in their clothing. If it's if you're using a piece of equipment and it jumps out of place, like if you're using an auger on a piece of soil, the best way to describe cattywampus is that auger jumps up out of the hole and it's just lying there, sort of half tilted. That's cattywampus. So it's not completely laid out. It's not on a flat plane. Cattywampus is usually at an angle.
Okay, that's interesting. One of those definitions.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Is that a word you use, James?
No, Moral Officer Grand was asking that.
Oh, really?
In the chat.
I had a cattywampus.
Throwing that out there, but there's I've been reading this excellent book lately about dialogue. This is sort of what spurred on the conversation. It was a book by Robert McGee called Dialogue, the Art of Verbal Action for Page, Stage, and Screen. And I've primarily been digging into this because, as some of you may know, I'm writing a radio play. And radio play, I have discovered, is
you need that.
About 80% dialogue.
Yep.
And the beauty about this book is it's actually given me a diagram that I walked away with to help sort of refine my writing, because I think I have a decent comprehension of dialogue and how to write it in my stories, but this kind of helped me take it just a tad bit further, where Robert in his book talks about how there are 3 circles to a character. First, there is that which is never said, which is often whom your true character is, what they may think on a subconscious level. There's that for which your character wants to say, and that's just their blatant thought patterns, the one thing they just want to shoot out and scream, if you will, the thing they want to say, the thing they mean to say. And then you have the things they say. And this has sort of helped me because once I kind of shaped my characters, you kind of, let your character guide their speech. There's that whom they are on the subconscious level, even if they don't know, and that influences what they want to say. But then there's that person they're talking to, the situation they're in, and that helps fashion what they actually say. And each one of these sorts of gives a window into the next. What they actually say, the underlying subtext is what they wanted to say, and their underlying subtext is influenced by whom they are as a character. And this sort of helps me a lot, or has been helping me sort of drive and find character voice and drive character action through dialogue, if that makes sense.
Actually, that's really
Yeah, it makes this. Yeah.
Yeah, it filters down from the person that they are, that they're not going to say, geez, babe, I'd really love to get together with you, to, gee, I wish I could just tell her I think about her, to, so what are you looking at? It's like, and getting to that point and letting your
Exactly.
know that I actually do have internal dialogue in my book. It has to be there. Is a lot of my readers know it's sort of a hidden secret that the Watcher can't actually talk, and he's mute. So he cannot say what he's thinking. And I love the fact that for most people, and I think Morale Officer actually got it a lot faster than most, that they get through the whole first chapter before they realize he can't talk at all. Because he thinks to himself,
oh, nice,
crosses his arms and, glares at people, and he's nonverbal. And as a result, it's been a real hoot writing him because he has his own language. He did not know American Sign Language. As a result, he has to make up his own language. And he knows some signs, but not enough to communicate with anybody. Nobody else knows any. And this is taken directly from my own experience as a child when I was deaf. And I didn't, I couldn't hear people. So and when people made signs at me, I actually could understand it sometimes. And so I think that it's certainly a language all its own. And to have a nonverbal character trying to think, we had to do something for him. So I have, if I'm in the right voice, if I am looking at things through the eyes of the Watcher, then he will have his own internal voice. And the same thing for Rose. She will have her internal voice. If I'm looking at that segment, and usually there'll be a cutout segment where there is a character and they will have their own internal dialogue. And then we're able to do that. And I put it in italics so people know they're thinking. But if I'm doing the general narrative, I will not have internal dialogue. And that's really hard to convey that part about what they actually are versus what they're thinking they wish they could say and what they actually say. So I love that because it's sort of a step down. I would say you're saying about a third of what you actually would say if you had no filter at all.
Yeah. And then with Black Knight having characters that have no filter, how do you juggle that sometimes?
Well, I compare them. I place them in conversations and conversational situations and action situations with characters who are their opposite or enemies that let's say,
so it probably spries them into action and has a lot of what you call like you're sort of waiting for people's reaction to what they just said.
Oh yeah, and then the bonus, if you can say that it's a bonus, is the fact that you're not like you're not forced to constantly strive to show and don't tell. It's like you can achieve a great balance between show and tell, and that goes especially in situations where I have the space backer that I mentioned, Mac, and the ISEC citizen lawman Boris, who has a lot of filter. He thinks more than he speaks, and in many cases he has this like internal monologue because he's a telepath, and he has to be really careful of what he he says, and how even how he thinks.
Give me a sec. Give me a sec. My dog's all biting me. I gotta take him to the other room, so I'm
What?
going AFK for a second.
What he's
Yeah.
biting. Oh.
So yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing, and that's perhaps one of the most favorite chapter where I first had this like rapport between them was on an asteroid, like X asteroid, former asteroid mining station, which turned into a den of scum and villainy with lots of bandits and other criminals and space drug sellers and buyers and traffickers and such.
Oh wow.
And they have like, because one of them is a lawman and the other one is like a criminal who is preying upon better criminals.
Oh no.
And they're like, they have their own point of view, they each, and then they assume in the beginning that it's like it's mostly conflicting, even though both of them are human and both of them are Terran. They're both from the same culture, and they assume it's like, oh yeah, we have like a lot in common, but you're a fucking agent of the law, and it's like you're a anarchist criminal. But it's like the more they talk about things that they assume they don't share, the more they understand that it's actually they share way too many things that they had assumed previously. And it's, yes, you like the space biker says, oh well, we can't just kill people here. We can't just kill them because this is another gang's territory. We have an understanding with said gang, so we can't just like break people's bones. Like, you can't just shoot him in the head. Like, I don't care that he's like according to the law he's just like some random degenerate, and you in Terran space you have all full rights to just blow his alien noggin with your disruptor. No, you can't kill him. And the ISAC agent is like, but he's, look at what he's doing. He's right there. He's doing shit. Like, I can't. It just, and the entire dynamic, especially in the conversation, the dialogue between them, it gets more and more intense to a point where both reach an understanding and begin to see each other for what they never even thought that the other was. And and then it's like it goes to another level. They go each inside their heads, and they do these like tiny, super tiny internal monologues, like very tiny. And you as a reader, you can like compare, of course, because otherwise it's like, how could you see inside the heads of the characters if you don't have this, if you don't write this? And they get to a point where one is like, the space biker is like, what the fuck is this guy talking? Like, he's using a different language. What the fuck is this language? Oh, this is Bulgarian. Oh shit, now I have to learn Bulgarian. Like, he's probably like using some like nasty curse words. I need to learn that.
Oh wow.
Because he's a biker. Like, oh yeah, new and in like exciting curse words. Yeah, I have to learn them. Fuck you, I have to learn them. And the other guy is like, well, these space bikers, well, they have this way of doing things which is somewhat similar to the way we do things, but they have like even more freedom than us, and they can go places where we can't. We don't have the authority to go there. We if we go there, we have no legal authority, no nothing. And they have more freedom. They can gather information from different sources. They know these alien gangsters and stuff. And actually, these alien gangsters, I mean, they may be bad, but it's like they're not like bad. Like we can if like we can talk to them and we can extract information from them, and we will not shoot them in the head because it's not their space, it's not our space, and they're not doing anything to us, to our people. But if they come to our turf, we'll definitely fucking kill them.
Oh, yeah, they're rough and tough, is what you're saying. They're not necessarily.
Yeah. And there is this gang of mercenaries who, well, they're like mostly criminal mercenaries. Like they're like really hard ass mercenaries.
Yeah.
Like they're like doing some somewhat questionable jobs, like protecting some, let's say, drug runners and such, but they're not going into like the slaver jobs and such.
Yeah.
And they have like this our space bikers, they have an understanding with them, and they say, okay, so we'll give you weed, like we'll give you Terran weed, which is only grown, like we'll give you Terran weed, we'll pay you with weed, and you will infiltrate our guys, let's say on this slave auction, because we need to snatch the slaves, and you'll just look the other way while we raid the slave auction, we slaughter all the slavers, we steal all of their shit, all of their millions of monies. We'll give you your cut, like we'll grab the slaves, and you'll just you'll suffer like some bruised eyes, like in let's say a broken bone here and there, but like you'll just say that we kind of overpowered you, and it was like a sudden attack and shit. And the guys were like, okay, yeah, no problem. That just give us a little bit more weed, and give us more weed. They don't call it weed. They call it something else. Like I think they call it the solar leaf. They call it the solar leaf in their dialect of French space. Weed is called the solar leaf.
Actually, in Watcher of the Damned, because there's not a currency necessarily for a post-apocalyptic world.
Do they use ammo?
They use everything. They actually have a barter system, and one of the things that they use to pay workers in the only industrial city they really have, which is Purgatory, they use budweed and homemade drugs and basically homemade meth and moonshine. But budweed is what they call it. So it's actually budweed. It's grown on a plantation that they've actually set up, and of course they're using conscripted labor to help grow it. But they use it to pay their only industrial area. And of course, that keeps the workers compliant and happy. So there's a whole economy that's built around giving people liquor and drugs and budweed. And in fact, that's one of the ways that we actually get into a discussion with it more or less in Watcher of the Damned about factory towns. They used to exist here in the United States, especially you had oil fields towns, especially had them. Also, the lumber industry in East Texas where you had a company store. Miners had that also. You would go to the store and it would be owned by the company. They would pay you, but then you would immediately pay the money back in. And that each man would frequently get a free ration of liquor. So they would spend all their money back at the company store. They would also get a ration of liquor. They would go home and get drunk and pass out. Nobody had time to go, riot or ask for better pay because they were all passed out drunk. And so I actually based that economy of the system, having these people under their thumb, more or less, by creating one where they actually would use budweed in it. And then once again, the term budweed was an evolution of Texas language, where what they call it, getting some bud or something like that, and then weed, of course, and so we actually did an amalgamation of those two words to create that language for it. And so when they're talking to each other, they will use euphemisms for drugs and alcohol or liquor and weed, which of course is, they call it stuff. They want to give me some of that good stuff.
Good
it's just
stuff.
And then shine, which of course is moonshine. So it's actually a truncated word. And then of course budweed, which
Fun.
I have to.
We're
Let's
about
see.
5 minutes out. Hate to interrupt the conversation unless you guys are willing to go a tad bit longer, but I want to go ahead and respect your time here, because I don't know if you have anything planned after this, but we're 5 minutes out. Want to see if you guys want to give your final thoughts on the subject matter and where people can find you. Not all at once, of course.
Try to find. Well, of course, you can find me at watcherthedamned.com, where I have my entire series for Watcher the Damned, post-apocalyptic sci-fi western. It's an epic version. Actually headed for 12 books, and we are on book 9 right now, trying to finish that out while I try to deal with life. And of course, on dialogue, something we really didn't get to talk about, but I wanted to put this in here. Black Knight, you mentioned how generations have been robbed of the chance to learn conversation, to talk about dialogue. We actually have a crisis in this country because a lot of people don't sit around eating at the table, just having a conversation with somebody. They don't listen to dialogue between people. They listen to dialogue from stories on the TV or on YouTube, or very rarely when they're reading. A lot of times it's online. And so it actually has its own, online dialogue. One of the most important things you can do for your dialogue, besides know some tricks and tips, go watch great movies. Go watch great shows from TV's past. I would strongly suggest, if you want to do dialogue for different characters in a large group, that you need to go watch Taxi. Look it up. Taxi is one of the greatest dialogue trainers of all time. It's a fantastic show, and it's almost entirely centered around dialogue, no action. The second one you want to go to if you're wanting banter is Moonlighting. Get the first, not the later episodes, get the early ones. For that banter between the sexes, it's one of the models for Rose's and Watcher's interaction, except that she's a little bit more of a ditzy name. That, and actually the dialogue between George Allen and Gracie Allen. George Burns and Gracie Allen, excuse me. Because those older movies leaned heavily on dialogue. And while action movies are great, if you want to learn dialogue, you need to go listen to these movies, hear how people actually talked. People actually did talk like that. I've met these people. I've known them. Go back and watch these movies. Go back and watch these TV shows. Let it soak into your bones, the cadence of how people talk and of the interactions and the way that it can happen. You can actually have an entire book that's nothing but dialogue. And I love writing dialogue because of it. Go back and immerse yourself in those things. That will teach you more about dialogue than almost any other thing you can do.
Well, all I can say is that indeed, watching old TV shows and old movies will teach you a lot about proper dialogue. I mean, it's not that you can't, let's say, go on some Discord server and soak in like the current day online jargon and try to replicate it, but it's not. I mean, it's not gonna be fun unless you have like some specific story goals using it. My advice would be to go and watch the Star Trek TNG, watch Babylon 5, watch like or read, let's say, Jules Verne, read about Captain Nemo's adventures and how he and the other characters talk. And one of my favorites, which is Sandokan, books about Sandokan by Emilio Salgari, especially as like heroic character would talk, and not in a very pompous manner, but like from a point of a powerful warrior man, masculine warrior. It's really really nice. And yeah, as for where you can find me, you can find me on Substack, blackknight.com, and this is where you can read my newest stories and poems. Currently, I am working on my newest shadow fantasy called The Winding Road, which I posted the latest chapter for Warrior Wednesday today. And you can find my Star Shatter books on Amazon, of course. My fantasy, singularly, like the single fantasy I published, Lord of the Bones, including my story collections, Mandate of Sword and Dragon and The Blood of Tyrants, including the 2 books about Velen, the Authorian. And hopefully next year I will complete the 8th book in the Star Shatter series and deliver it
Awesome.
to you. Yeah.
Yay.
Excellent. And I would actually advise checking out this piece of gold I found, the book Dialogue by Robert McKee. It's been really good. It's a real fat book, actually. A lot to say in there, and a lot I've been pulling from. Particularly that little passage there explains dialogue, goes completely into dialogue in books and in movies and in plays. And funny enough, the only thing it doesn't touch on is radio plays, but I found that has a lot to do with basically live performance plays. So I'm going to have to study some of that myself. But thank you all for checking us out. We hope you have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your Thanksgiving for those of you who practice it. If you don't, just have a really big meal on Thursday, and there you go. So all of you, thank you for joining us. If you're on part of the replay crew, go ahead, give us a like down below, leave a subscription.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Give us a like, hit the subscription button. Thank you for stopping by, and come join us next week. Same time, same day. Same day, Tuesday, same time. I am tired. So go hit all the buttons and join us next time. That's what I'm saying. Okay, we're out of here. Bye-bye. Mwah. We love you. Happy Thanksgiving. I accidentally pressed the wrong button there. That's the right